It is a core belief of mine that all humans will justify their beliefs, their actions, or rather their existences before Lord Chuku when they ultimately find rest or any other time, I don't know, but I believe that we will surely account. Full realization of this has inspired me to do whatever I could for those I am well placed to improve their lives. When I went to Connecticut at the beginning of this month, when I attended a conference of scholars, one of the gentlemen I engaged with was a girl, Rothschild Yassi. I made sure we had a conversation about the word uru. Uru. I made it clear to him, or rather, I discussed with him the etymology of that phrase, which is of that statement, which is ubiquitous in the Igbo language. You find uru okwe, uru opala, uru ago, uru everywhere. I connected it to I connected it to Jerusalem, which really should be called Uru Shalayim. Connected it to Uru Chaldea, where Abraham was born. And I made him to understand, I made this Jew to understand that the meaning of Uru has not changed from Abraham to myself. Because Uru, in the language that Abraham believably spoke, that is Ugaritic and Akkadian, the meaning of Uru in these two languages, the meaning of Uru in Biblical Hebrew, and the meaning of Uru in the language we call Igbo today are still the same. He was stunned because remember, this is a white man, as we would call people of European backgrounds. He probably had not heard about the Igbo people as Israelites before, if he had heard about the Igbo people. But here I was, or there I was, making a compelling and profound case that if we are to bring Abraham today, bring Moses today, they will understand the language I was speaking. And we shook hands, embraced as brothers, and we dispersed. Today, one of my own brothers, one of my own friends, Nazi Onoha, came and put up a comment on that post that made me unhappy. He said that Uru means benefit. You know, like we will refer to the fleshy part of animals as Uru, Amo. And when I saw it, I was disappointed because I expected Nazi Onoha to do better. I expected Nazi Onoha to say that benefit is one of the meanings of Uru to us, and then to discuss the other issue. So I pointed it out to him. Basically told him that what you should have done is to say that Uru could mean benefit, and at the same time could mean or means location, settlement, city, which is what it means in the Bible. Fortunately, this brother believes in taking correction. And he thought about it and corrected himself and wrote, Remy Ilona, you are right, but Remy Ilona, you are right. I know there is an Igbo word spelled Ario, but pronounced another way to mean something else. There is Uru Allah or Uru Allah in Idato local government area of Imo State. There is Uruago in Nnewi. Therefore, and possibly, when Uru prefixes the name of a place, it could be related to Iru, which prefixes the place of shalom, hence Yerushalayim. It would have been handy to make voice distinction between these words. No confusion. We are scholars studying and learning continually. Peace unto us. Before I went further with this subject, I also corrected him again after thanking him. I told him that Yerushalayim is, of course, a way of saying Jerusalem. But still, Urushalayim came before Yerushalayim. Because it's time to begin to call a spade a spade. It's time to begin to call a spade a spade. The most irresponsible thing that can happen is for anybody to doubt that Igbos are Israelites. Because you cannot doubt that Moses was an Israelite. You cannot doubt that Judah, Simeon, Levi, Reuben were Israelites. But Igbos are doubted today because people have not done what they should do. If you are talking about the Israelite culture, if these figures I mentioned are to come back to the world today, they would recognize what I do as what they did. But surprisingly, Igbos are doubted because people have been irresponsible. So I will not take Yerushalayim as the correct pronunciation of Urushalayim. As the correct pronunciation of Jerusalem more than Urushalayim. Nazi was pandering to modern Hebrew. And if we are talking about biblical Hebrew, you go to the Igbo language. But I thanked him for acknowledging that Uru means, or that Uru can become a prefix for Shalayim. Then I went on. I went on to respond more fully to him and to address a subject I began to address in the morning when I made a post. Nazi Onoha, thank you for the acknowledgement. You are among those that one could say that by Chukwu's grace, our people should think about and have hope. The Igbo people no longer have hope. I will explain. So many of our people get me exasperated and they annoy me profoundly. One came to my timeline this morning with the following insult. You don't know Amadioha, but you know Jewish. I say that the Igbos came from Israel. I say that the Igbos are Ibiri. Okay, Ibiri. Hebrews. I don't say that the Igbos are Jewish. The Igbos are not Jewish. The Jewish people are related to the Igbo people. Just like the Doma in Doma, Nasarawa State, are related to the Domas in Benue. The Igbos and the Jews share the same set of ancestors. I don't say that Igbos are Jewish, but this fellow probably linked it up that way because he's reckless, he's arrogant, he's careless, he doesn't see what I write. But I have explained the connection between the Igbos and the Jews now. You don't know Amadioha, but you know Jewish. What he meant was that I'm renouncing knowledge of Amadioha, but that I'm talking about the Jews. Of course, I have every reason to talk about the connections between the Igbos and the Jews. I don't have any reason to talk about myself and Amadioha because, fortunately, fellow scholars like Onyebuchi James Ile have come to my timeline and said that Amadioha is unknown in my part of the Igbo land. I don't know about it. But I know about the relationship between me and the Jews because you will see the reasons why I should be respected for whatever I say. I have researched this. I have written 21 books on it. Fellow scholars read my books. And even this man that said this knows that he was circumcised on the 8th day if he's actually Igbo. And only the people of Israel were circumcised on the 8th day. No other group in the world. You don't know about Amadioha, but you know Jewish. Not as a question. He said it's not as a question, but as an insult. And it's a response to my clear statement that in my location in Igbo land, Amadioha was seen as alien as St. Stephen. This was profoundly insulting. I'm not saying that Igbo people, or at least my family and Jews, are related. I've said some of the things why people should respect what I say. I have a PhD, and I did not acquire the PhD as a very young boy. I acquired it after practicing law for over 20 years, teaching law too in universities. I have a master's too. Anybody that cannot respect me would not respect any scholar in the world. I have a track record of performance. I know this thing more than anybody in the world. If he was responsible, he would have respected me. Now, here it comes. One must be an enemy to hate the Igbo Israelite identity. You must hate the Igbo people to hate this. For one, only a total idiot will doubt that the Igbos came from Israel, with all the evidence documented and available. This year alone, I have published a book which proves beyond doubt that for you to understand the Hebrew Bible, you will not only have to know the Igbo culture, but you must know the Igbo language too, for you to understand the Hebrew Bible completely. I won't finish this conversation without making reference to just two issues. If you were to bring Moses back to this world today and ask him the precepts you preached and lived by, what could we possibly call them as a name? What he will give you is what the Igbos have for what we call religion and culture, omenana. In Deuteronomy 6:1, God speaking through Moses told the people of Israel, everything we have taught you through Moses are things you will do in the land. Translate things you will do in the land to Igbo language. You have omenana. If you don't know the Igbo language and you don't know the Igbo culture, you will read the Bible for 1,000 years, you will not understand that God was giving the people of Israel a name for a religion. Then, the second is Genesis, I think 11, talks about Haran dying in the face of the father. Haran dying in the face of the father. Go to the Hebrew, what you will find is that Haran died in the face of the father. That's what you'll find. How can somebody die in the face of the father? You will never know what the scribes that wrote Genesis were saying unless you know the Igbo culture and the Igbo language. Igbo culture says that if somebody dies while the father was still alive, the lineage of that person that died will lose the right of first son, or the right of a certain right that comes to the first son in the family, assuming that Haran was the first son of Terah, and he died while Terah was still alive. His lineage will not succeed to the right of the first son. And what the Igbo language says when something like this happens is Onwuru n'ihu nna ya. He died in the face of the father. If anybody sees all this and keeps doubting that Igbo people came from Israel, the person is anti-Semitic, the person is racist, the person is an idiot. Secondly, the Israelite identity is associated with success. Where are the Igbos today? The Igbos are not a successful group today. The Igbo people are not a successful group today. They have a good culture, but they are not a successful group today. And I know why they're not successful. How you see yourself determines what you do. Persecution, genocide, negligence, and carelessness have reduced the Igbos to the level that what they are doing today is debating with Nigerians about who can invent more gods. And when I talk about gods, I mean small g. Who had more gods? If they see Ogun, the god of iron of the Yorubas, they try to invent an equivalent among themselves. If they see Sango, the god of iron, they begin to try to invent the Sango, the god of iron among the Yorubas. They try to invent the equivalent in their own cosmos. Where are they? They are in the gutter. If they could see themselves as Israelites, they will get up. They are where they are today because they no longer think that they can be better than they are. So anybody fighting the Israelite identity of the Igbo is an enemy of the Igbos. For two reasons. One is that it is true that the Igbos came from Israel. Two, or at least my family came from Israel. My DNA report shows it. But if other Igbos don't come from Israel, that's fine. The Ilona family, one of the oldest families of the Igbos, came from Israel. If that is the way to present it and we will have peace, good. But I'm from one of the oldest families in Igbo land. So the number one reason is that this identity that these cretins among the Igbos are fighting is the only identity that can remove the Igbos from the gutter, from the dustbin where the circumstances of life have placed the Igbos. Because if the Igbos can think that they were Israelites, they will rise up again. And of course, they can never rise up seeing themselves the way they see themselves today. If they see themselves as anything worthy, why should an Igbo be celebrating that Davido, a Yoruba man, said he's Igbo by blood? Why should an Igbo celebrate it? Davido is a Yoruba man, the mother was Igbo, and nobody becomes an Igbo because the mother is Igbo. If the Igbos are where they should be, why should the Igbos and the Yorubas and the Hausas and the Fulanis be engaged in perennial arguments over Nigeria? Why are the Igbos not thinking of competing with the Americans, Japanese? Why are Igbos not thinking of taking examinations with the Americans and trumping them? Why are they just struggling to psychologically maintain an edge in Nigeria? So, Igbos fill the cyberspace with nonsense. That's what I thought, and I decided to bring up this so that we will start to populate the cyberspace with meaningful things too. I don't usually talk about my academic accomplishments, but if Igbos can go online and be talking nonsense, why can't I talk sensible things online? Thank you. Hit the subscribe button, like, share this post.